Okay, so time for map number 5 in this series, which is Control. And that's when, as you know, if you've seen the game, San Francisco start to wake up a little bit.
By the San Francisco Shoppers, they held aloft the Overwatch League trophy in a one-sided victory against the Vancouver Titans.
Yeah.
The Dynasty, Matt, I have no interest in making it remotely as easy this year.
So let me just go back a little bit. So the intro that we're given is of the trophy, right? I know this. I know that we're going to be looking at the trophy. So I decide what a great opportunity to, you guessed it, reiterate the stakes. But we're going to zoom out even further than just this game. Than just the Hanamura pick, the Zenyatta, the Genji. We're going to go back. All right, come take a trip with me back in time. So now, the gravity of the situation, we're going to start to ratchet it up a bit because this is not one-sided. We can actually become a little bit more tense. We can become more grandiose in some of how we commentate this match because it's a real game. It's a proper game. We don't have to manufacture hype. This game sort of delivers. So we can start to, again, sort of change our approach.
Last year, the Wells Fargo Center was lit alight by the San Francisco Shoppers.
Shop? San Francisco Shop. Well, me. Not really what I was hoping for to come back in from this map. That's fine.
Held aloft the Overwatch League trophy in a one-sided victory against the Vancouver Titans.
Yeah.
So again, I'm it's a little bit of a storytelling moment, right? I guess I'm having a seance with the ghosts of Overwatch League events past, if you will.
Dynasty, Matt, I have no interest in making it remotely as easy this year.
Yeah, no. It looks like Hastro now is running the shop.
They even up the series. They take
I'm so mad about that.
No other team in their right mind would take in their situation, but they've been rewarded for that. And it's a 2-2 series. This is incredible.
The risk to go to Hanamura ends up paying off. And then all
the music is also helping set this tone, I feel.
So
for me, in this moment, I'm channeling my sense of reverence for the institution of Overwatch League Grand Finals and the players that have come before and the games that we've seen. Do I have a theater background? You're very Shakespearean with your commentary sometimes. No, not really. I enjoyed my English studies during school, but no theater background. Outside of my 7th grade drama teacher telling my parents I had a knack for it, but I didn't really have the confidence at that age to sort of do too much acting or drama.
The risk to bring out the Genji to maybe try and, I guess, kind of control the high ground a little bit more. Also for the Nanoblade combo ends up paying off. And
Epic
I think
music.
San Francisco, you're a little bit rattled right now, right?
Now, you know what? I wish I could hear this music. What I'm doing right now, I can't hear the music that goes on broadcast. Neither me nor Matt can because of our setup. Right now, I actually just have like crowd audio pumped into my headset. But I think this music, when I can hear music, it allows me to sort of lock in a little bit more with that. Sweeter, happier music. Yeah, I mean, it's, different strokes, right? But I can't hear the music right now. Fortunately, I got the tone correct for the intro from break, just by knowing what we were going to be talking about.
You don't. A lot of times, the Shock are the one who are making these, mid-game adjustments that are really paying off. Kind of one step ahead of the opponent. All
right, so something I've mentioned a couple times here. I'm looking at Matt because he's talking, and if I will look you in the camera if I'm talking to you, but if Matt is sort of making a wider point, like I will face him. Because what it does as a viewer, it actually will make you put more attention on this side of the screen, more attention on the subject. Because I'm not making eye contact with you anymore, so you're not really engaging with me. But this guy is. So when I look at Matt, it's because I want you to look at Matt as well. Because remember, you are the third person in this conversation. Business Gamer, back it again. That's right.
We've now seen the Seoul Dynasty pull that out twice.
So this is because we have a conversation, but this is not me and Matt talking. This is you're standing here, right? We're looking at that one person in the circle at the party that's telling a story.
This next map is going to be massive. The first control map was
You notice my eye line is about here. So not perfect. I could have adjusted the tablet I was looking into slightly. Yeah, I mean, Radicul, I am actually, when I look at Matt, I'm actually looking at Matt. I'm actually looking at him because in my stage setup at home, I have a tablet here. Okay, maybe not that high. Maybe more like here. So I am looking at a tablet, and when Matt looks at his corresponding tablet, we're looking at each other. The problem here is that the tablet eye line is here. All right? Matt's eye line is here. So it obviously creates this effect of me not actually, when I look to turn towards him, I'm looking here, not here. So you can kind of tell there's like a slight difference in eye lines because of how our setup is. But I mean, when I'm at home, sure, right, yeah, I can do that. So when I'm at home, I'm looking I'm looking at the camera in the tablet, right? So to reiterate, I'm looking at a tablet here instead of looking at Matt in the face because I can't. How about that? Is it just a feed or a point of reference? No, it's literally a feed. It's literally me and Matt. Okay, so there's two tablets, right, on stands. Okay, so this is my room. I actually have a tablet here as well that I'm not using. It has a camera on the front, and we're in a video call. Matt has the same thing in his room. Camera, video call. So he looks at, I mean, the thing is, here's the thing, right? He looks at the tablet. He's probably not looking into the camera when he's looking at my face, right? Because he can't see my face when he looks at the camera on the tablet. So he's probably looking at my face, but in reality, as you know, the camera on the tablet is like a little bit higher. So there's like this height difference, right? Of him looking at me in the eyes on the actual tablet, and him actually looking me in the eye by looking into the camera. So it's like if you're on a video call to someone on your phone, right? You're probably not looking at the camera on the phone itself, right? You're probably looking at their face on your phone display. Now, up close it doesn't make a big difference. But when we're at longer distances, i.e., the further I am away from this tablet, the greater this distance between the actual tablet camera and Matt's eyes on the tablet increases, right? So that's where error can creep in when we're dealing with sort of eye levels and stuff like that. So it's not perfect here, and you saw it was the same issue with sort of Zoe and Johnny and all that. So there you go.
Pretty much dominated by San Francisco. If Seoul
trigonometry.
Rattle off 3 wins in a row.
But at least, I mean, they obviously the height difference. Obviously this sort of is a little bit more kind to Matt. This difference in height between us. But, it's TV. You can be who you want to be on TV, I'm told.
They are so close to really kind of rattling off that 4 in a row to win this series.
Matt, it's not quite a reverse sweep, but it is pretty darn close what the Dynasty have been able to do to turn things around. And the Shock have been in this position, right? They have had to come back from big deficits. They have had losses on record recently, right? They didn't win every one of our monthly cups. They're no strangers to adversity.
So we do want to point out that, like, okay, let's not get too carried away. The Shock have lost maps before.
But this is a little different. I think at this point we can safely throw out the idea of map win record, about optimal composition. Nothing matters that occurred outside of this game. It'll develop its own meta, and our expectations had to adjust.
So this is basically me saying, all right, boys, when you head out to the second half, just remember that, doesn't matter the games that led up to this one. It's just this one that matters, and don't worry about, basically that's it. But what we find in final series as well, that some develop their own meta, and obviously, teams, especially in a longer series, like a best of 7 as when we start to see teams sort of show things that we've never seen before, right? So we do want to avoid letting historical data affect us too much, but it's an important part of the story at the start of the series. But what I'm saying now is that here in map number 5, throw your expectations out the window.
Yeah, no, we do have a sub for this map. It'll be Smurf, who will come in for Super. It is kind of wild to think about, like, San Francisco. They always have these, like, when they lose, it's always like a long drawn-out series, it feels like. For a team to potentially beat them 4 games straight, it's like almost unthinkable. When we were doing our bracket for Cloud Chat, kind of looked at it and it was like, man, it's so hard to predict a team like the San Francisco Shock losing 2 games in a row, pretty much, like 2 series.
That was a good transition, I think, from the music into the map sounds.
Let alone 4 maps in one series, and especially in this type of fashion, if Seoul is able to win this one, and then potentially get that final clincher, it'd be unreal. It'd be an all-time
Matt loves plugging Plat Chat.
performance as a team.
Matt, at first it was Violet with this incredible Zenyatta performance, showing that flex support role can really dominate when it comes to damage. Then it was Creative who stepped up and said, I don't need to do damage to have a gigantic impact on the game. They switch Prophet to Genji, unlocking the potential of that nano boost, and then Creative ends the round with an ungodly 4-player biotic grenade to seal the deal. Both of these teams stacked with talent. Now as we head out onto Busan, it's time for them to clash heads once more and see which team heads into the next break at a map lead.
Yeah, and the Shock, they ditch the whole the Roadhog again. They did it a little bit on the first one. Actually,
So they're playing Ball Tracer here, right? That's pretty notable. Matt's going to have to explain a little bit.
played Super on the first install. This time they played Choi on the Sigma, but they also played the Ball. So they play the Wrecking Ball with the Tracer here to try and pressure the back line. And look at this.
Oh, and you think that they're going to be okay with this push, right? The TNT looks really good. I'm not taking over here, letting Matt do his thing
With the ball.
because he needs to explain to you or everybody or me even why the Shock would actually forego a second hit scan DPS and the Roadhog, which have been so dominant. Why go for Smurf here?
This time they played Choi on the Sigma, but they also play the Ball. So they play the Wrecking Ball with the Tracer here.
Also, Prophet gets a little bit ahead of himself there. I think Violet's Discord is pretty big.
Here to try and pressure the back line. And look at
So Violet gets a kill and Strike is flanking currently, I think. He gets creative. So Dynasty try and make the play. They might not be ready for this composition from San Francisco. Maybe they don't expect Striker to be here. Because obviously with Seoul's composition, right, they don't really have backline pressure with, you know, Prophet and Fitz playing what they are. So they could be taken by surprise. But I'm still letting Matt talk, right? It's the first fight of the damn map. You need to let it breathe. And I need to hear Matt, or Matt definitely needs to deliver some of this insight.
Look at this. Seoul Dynasty, they just try and push straight on through. They get Choi, but they lose everybody else.
Yeah, the wrap from the backside was there for the San Francisco Shock. It was a very nice dynamite placement that got Choi open, but the rest of San Francisco had already gone for a flank. That play was pulled off on an absolute dime, and the Dynasty were not ready.
Yeah, so I point out, obviously, the flanking from Striker was pretty crucial, right? Is that after you lose 2 players and you've lost your Runner as one of them, you're in deep trouble.
And they'll give up Choi's life to be able to take out 1 or 2 players in the backline every single time. You can double back and res. You see.
Yeah, so San Francisco's composition has a feature that Seoul's doesn't, in that pressure now for creative. And it almost felt to me that this is respect as well for just how much creative can warp a game with his Ana play, kind of following the footsteps of Jaehong. I know one of the things that players used to say about Jaehong was that if you leave him unattended, he will win the team fight for his team on Ana, right? Now, this was back when Ana was arguably quite a lot stronger, but I think the same thing applies here, and you saw it from Creative, right? That last fight in Gibraltar was all him. And much in the same way as Jaehong, right? Creative will hit you with multi-biotic grenades. He will sleep dart a crucial target. You name it, he will deliver it. Do I and Matt get first dibs on casting grand finals matches? No, I mean, listen, the way we find out that we're casting a grand final is we get told, hey guys, look, you're going to be casting a grand final. We get told that. It's not really up to us. So I assume, I don't know exactly how it's chosen, but I would assume it's the pairing that they think is best for the job, best for the game. But that's just a guess.
Just the amount of pressure, right? The shot.
It's got nothing to do with I think. My opinion isn't really taken into account when they select Grand Finals casters.
From Striker off to the side, the wrecking ball damage, and this just opens up so many angles for Arns.
Striker's still in the mix though, even after losing Chilikovan. The shield's gone for the San Francisco Shock, but Striker would rather use the sword. Violet gives Marvel a Cossack kick in the breadbasket, and the San Francisco Shock want to brawl. You can see that clearly, and they already hold the point, so they don't care how long these fights go, Matt.
So I'm happy with that. I actually reused the line. So Cossack kick to the breadbasket. I've actually said that before. I don't know when it was, but I think in the moment it just occurred to me because it's Zenyatta, right? It looks like he's got his arms crossed. He's like, you know, kicking. It looks like a Cossack kick, but I like that I mentioned. I'm not trying to jerk myself off here, but I'm very happy about how I managed to turn that into an analogy about using a shield or sword there with Striker. And then, of course, like, there's a little bit more wordplay, but you know, we're not missing out. We're not losing too much as that fight goes. Do you and Matt ever have to steer each other away from a dead point that you might get stuck in? No, Matt can steer himself. Matt might steer me away, sure. If I'm asking him the wrong kind of question, maybe a question that he doesn't think is that interesting or is a dead end or doesn't leave much room for discussion, he might just answer my question, my shit question, in like one sentence and then talk about something that he wants to talk about. That way, he gets to decide the way that the conversation goes. I mean, but I have full confidence that, like, I trust him to do that. You know, I don't have a problem. I will serve him up a question. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's awful. Usually it's an awful question if I'm not really paying attention or not really in the zone. But generally my questions are okay. Usually I can ask him a question that I think will be interesting because maybe I know the answer to it already. The point is not to make myself seem smart. I will pretend not to know something that I know if it means that Matt gets to delve into an important point or gets to hit a home run in terms of analysis. I don't care if a viewer goes, yeah, I can't believe that Uber didn't know that. You know, like, oh, I bet you didn't watch Apex. It's fine. As long as Matt gets value out of it. As long as I set him up for success.
Yeah, now at Seoul Dynasty, they'll make an adjustment. So they'll have Fitz come in and play the Sombra, try and get a hack onto this Wrecking Ball, prevent the disruption coming on through. Wrecking Ball, once it gets hacked, it's not a lot he can do. So if you're able to get a hack onto this Wrecking Ball, stop him from coming into your backline, they almost want to try and force San Francisco Shock to switch to the Roadhog, because you do think that if the Shock were going to play Roadhog consistently, they would have loved to have Super in the game.
That was clever by Prophet. He notices what's happening. Oh!
So a great point that Matt's making, I think, about why San Francisco are playing the Wrecking Ball and why it's working, right? Because first of all, you want to know why they're doing something, and then after the first couple of team fights, you want to know, is that thing that they're doing working, and why/why not? So Matt's doing that perfectly. I don't pick up his point here because we see a pretty big Resurrect interruption here from Marvel, and this is where Moth gets punished. So,
oh my, Marvel interrupts and Resurrect and gets the kill.
I believe that was a cross-map accretion as well.
Because you do think that if
so Arns dies here.
If we're going to play Roadhog consistently, they would have loved to have Super in the game.
That was clever by Prophet.
Ah, yeah, that motherfucker just got trebucheted like it's Normandy in 1066. That's beautiful.
But he notices what's happening. Oh my, Marvel interrupts and Resurrect and gets the kill on Moth. The accretion with the damage boost, that is ungodly. And the Shock leads 62%. It looks like Violet's going to expend the Transcendence to try and keep this point going. Chilikovan, though, can't
Smurf looking like one part of Newton's cradle.
Benefit from healing when he's in the drink. He's knocked off the map. And the Seoul Dynasty will be able to take the point as the hack on the Striker means he can't recall.
All right, so that's important, right? Tracer gets hacked. What does it mean? Like, why would you hack a target that's so hard to catch? Well, that's why, because you can't recall. All right, so a very quick call there. But again, if you can find a way to add value with your commentary, then do it, right? So Striker gets hacked, but what does it mean? He dies because he can't bleed. Like, he dies because why? He gets a kill because why? Why? The analysis usually covers the why and how, but if it's pithy and he can do it in one sentence, then fire it off. It really helps to add value instead of just reading the kill feed.
I think if you're the Shock, and if you're a Shock fan, you'd be a little bit worried if they're not able to figure this out with the Sombra in play. Potentially you have to change some other things to kind of work around it that don't exactly work in their favor. But they do have a lot of percentage on the point, right? So they can stay on with this a bit longer. You also have a minefield here. But Fitz is going to be able to build up towards this EMP rather quickly.
Yeah, and we bring up the EMP again because obviously it's a huge. I mean, it is huge against the Zenyatta Wrecking Ball Tracer composition. EMP is like the nastiest thing. That's why Fitz picked Sombra, because he has a huge amount of hack or EMP targets here that can really swing the fight in their favor. So Sombra's really, and on this map as well, I mean, everyone's forced to converge to a certain degree, so it's just very strong.
Smurf takes a bunch of damage, forced to back away for a moment. And okay, Marvel's happy, just catching through Copen inside the Gravitic Flux, and look at the wraparound there from Jeff.
Oh, Troy tries to go for one of his own there, but yeah, brutal.
Ready with open arms to catch Trigoben as he landed.
So the way that goes down.
For a moment. And okay,
so Gravitic Flux.
Happy, just catching through Copen inside the Gravitic Flux.
Oh. It's before Trigoben can actually bring people down. So Troy dies just before his part of the Gravitic Flux goes off. I don't think it would have killed anyone. Gesture may have died. Remember, it's half your effective HP. So if your opponents, as a caster, if I see anybody at half or below, I know they're dead instantly, right?
Flux, and look at the wraparound there from Gesture. Ready with open arms to catch Trigoben as he landed.
You know, they use the Gravitic Flux. You can hold on your EMP here. So if they try and push through this choke, you can see the EMP come on through from Seoul Dynasty. A lot of damage kind of follows that up. San Francisco may end up just kind of like walking in here, baiting it out. This will be the EMP from Fitz.
Yeah, it comes out. A lot of damage early onto Gesture by the looks of things there, but Fitz. Big EMP, exactly what the shock needed.
So, I mean, there's a Valkyrie there for Moth, but I think that was before the EMP. I may have been in an attempt to salvage the fight. It's interesting that San Francisco invests. You see Matt mention, like, okay, well, there's a good chance that, you know, the shock just sort of walk up and, you know, just let this fight be over once the EMP connects.
Just kind of like walking in here, baiting it out.
Okay, so the timing of that is that I don't know if San Francisco knew there would be an EMP here. Because Moth actually pops EMP the second that Fitz is revealed. Not obviously, it's not like he dodged the EMP and then gets a Valk. So yeah, it's a little hard to say. Maybe San Francisco let this one go. I mean, you are in a grand final, by the way, so maybe Moth thinks he can save the fight by getting some AoE healing via the Caduceus staff and EMP, despite the EMP.
Through this choke, you can see
because obviously Mercy. I mean, Mercy can do work if she's in Valk already.
The EMP come on through from Seoul Dynasty. A lot of damage kind of follows that up. San Francisco may end up just kind of like walking in here, baiting
EMP
it out.
Moth is in the corner. He does get hacked.
This will be the EMP from Fitz.
But he still gets Valk.
Yeah, it comes out. A lot of damage early onto Gesture by the looks of things there, but Fitz.
So I think there's actually a world there where Moth is able to get a resurrect or do a lot of healing if the Dynasty don't push so aggressively behind the EMP. Like if the Dynasty take their foot off the gas, Moth can keep Troy alive and also resurrect Violet maybe, but you know, he lets it go here and that's probably wise.
Big EMP, exactly what the shock needed, and the Valkyrie was even expended there by San.
Exactly what the shock needed. Obviously, the Dynasty used the EMP, but okay, Mitch.
San Francisco, maybe a glimmer of belief that they could still win despite having their abilities taken away.
Yeah, so I'm mentioning, I just want to maybe, again, I'm speculating, but I make that clear. I'm not saying that Moth definitely Valked there because he thought there would be an EMP, and despite that, he was going to try and win the fight. But it's like, maybe, you know, Moth Valks because he thinks there's still a chance he can win that fight. That is a decision that an individual often has to make, especially when you don't have time to discuss whether he should whether he should Valk or not after an EMP. There's just no time for that. So there's a lot of individual agency that occurs with responding to ultimates like that.
And now,
maybe they didn't think there was going to be that much.
Again, he starts the sentence with maybe. We just want to make it clear that we're not telling you exactly what happened, but we want to give you some potential reasons as to why you saw what you saw. In situations like that, it's kind of hard for us to know exactly why.
Damage following it up straight away, but it most certainly was.
The Dynasty now start to approach the Shock's total 63% and counting. What does the Shock work with here? Not a lot of combo mechanics. Trigoben's hacked here. Fitz is going to harass him. And oh, is there going to be help? Yes! Another pincer move. Jess is taken down by a pulse bomb, and Prophet and Smurf both go by the wayside. And amidst the fight, Striker's able to take the point back. That is a huge... So, okay, so there's a lot of stuff happening right now, right? A lot of resurrects. But crucially, San Francisco get the point. That is... We cannot overstate the importance of that. Especially in light of all of the stuff that's going on around the fight. So... First of all, Troy is getting pressured. He's actually zoned away individually by Marvel, and then Fitz wraps around.
and hacks him. So there's no chance of Fitz getting, you know, caught by surprise within the creation and actually maybe dying to Choi.
No, is there going to be help? Yes.
So there is help. In that exact moment, there's a pulse bomb connection on Gesture. The reason for this is that because Gesture was whole hogging. Can't take a breather. So you don't get damage reduction, CC reduction, healing. That's the perfect time for Striker to go for a pulse bomb. So very good by Striker waiting until the right moment so that he gets max effectiveness out of that, right? That is, whole hog is the most vulnerable time to be Roadhog. I know it doesn't seem right because obviously that's when he's potentially his most powerful, but he can't use his abilities. That kind of makes, if you can't interrupt whole hog, if you can interrupt whole hog as the Roadhog, if you can cancel it, that hero gets way better. Anyway, so yeah, so that's happening. So there's a ton happening. If I am going to try and talk about each of these things individually, it's going to be very hard. So we bundle them together a little.
Yes, another pincer move.
So the pincer move is still in reference to the Chohyobin kill. But since the breath escapes my lips, there have been 3 more kills. A trade, a 2 for 2.
Yes, is taken down by a pulse bomb, and Prophet and Smurf both go by the wayside.
So again, you could say that I am reading the kill feed here. Now, maybe I wouldn't do this if it wasn't a pretty pivotal fight. But I just read this. I basically read the kill feed. Mayhaps a temporal pincer. That's right. Well, there was actually a pincer happening here and one happening here. The pincer was in reference to this Chohyobin kill. Anyway.
And amidst the fight, Striker's able to take the point back. That is a huge fact that cannot be overlooked. Now the shock.
I mean, it was Moth and Striker. I think Striker didn't stand around on the point for that long, but it was. I mean, you get a resurrect, and now, you know, fellow 5 heads. We can also compare the effectiveness of the reses here, right? You got a 200 HP target, and then you've got a gigantic chonker. So in terms of the amount of HP that is being returned to the fight, it's a huge. It really favors the shock. Especially because Chohyobin dies first, so he'll be back the soonest. And Marvel is out of the picture. Gesture just died as Roadhog. So you have Smurf back. The enemy team still has Marvel, but San Francisco able to rotate down to the point. But again, I think the most important part of all of that was the point getting captured mid-fight. So that's what I choose to sort of talk about. And the kill feed, I could have not mentioned those kills. As long as I had something better to say instead of it. And I didn't. I mentioned that there were, some trades.
In control, and they can stall out a fight or go for the throat here.
So again, San Francisco can drag the fight out to 99% and give themselves like a really good chance of coming back. They can so this is, as a caster, I'm seeing this going, San Francisco are in control of the point now. They can stall out to 99% and force the Dynasty to use ultimates that Seoul don't want to use. That means San Francisco come back with ostensibly an ultimate advantage. So this is important now.
Smurf's trying to push in. Violet gets taken down, and the Dynamite deals with Moth.
So I don't see these kills. I don't see either of these 2 kills. So I do I say Violet gets taken down. Very generic call. And then, okay, I'm still reading the kill feed. I'll be honest with you, chat. Because what the fuck am I looking at here? I don't have a view that really allows me to be specific outside of Prophet standing on the high ground. I don't even know who's with him. So I just don't have that option. I'm not being presented with enough information to be certain of what I'm saying is true in terms of like, what, there's nothing to say here. And this is fine. This happens a lot. So the kill feed, but I say Violet gets taken down and the Dynamite deals with Moth. So instead of just saying Violet gets taken down, Moth gets taken down, I just try and not say the same thing twice. Because that is what I'm working with right now.
90% for San Francisco with Toby out of the picture and no resurrect Marvel.
So Toby dies, but I don't say anything about that until, with Toby out of the picture and no resurrect. So in that moment, I cast assuming that you've seen this. So I don't need to tell you Toby died. You need to cast assuming that the viewers can interpret a kill feed. So, that's it. Free dental advice here asks, you'll probably answer this 100 times, but what info do you have on your displays besides what we're seeing here? So I have a little tablet that has some basic stats about everyone in the game that's live. So it's kills, deaths, eliminations, damage, and some hero-specific stats. The same ones you would see if you hit tab as that hero. Outside of that, I see exactly what you see. I don't see anything on top of it. I don't see any map. I don't see any other POVs. I don't see any free cam. I see exactly what you see.
Still respects Arms despite going for a bit of a 1v1. Prophet has to coach get himself away from trouble. 98% and counting. Spurf goes down. Tricobin stalls for 99, and that's what the Shock will have to work with for the next fight.
So again, like these are kind of junk time kills, right? Kind of like, I don't know, players getting touchdowns when they're 40 points behind or whatever, right? So I mentioned that Smurf gets taken down and then fits on a Troy Herbin. Can you get that info during a game? No, I don't think so. No. That stats thing, like I need to have my IP whitelisted to see live stats. But they're not. The thing Radical is like, if you go back through this map, I've not used them because they're just not that valuable a lot of the time. I mean, maybe they're interesting. When we had Command Center, those are the stats that you had. In fact, here you go. When we had the Command Center on Twitch, you had more information than the casters did. And that is no joke. You had more information than we did because you had each player's individual point of view. We didn't have that. We never had that. Yes. You had more than we had to work with. So what you see, chat, is what I cast over. This is what we call program, right? This is program. This is what's being sent out to everybody. I cast off the same screen. Now, I use those stats, but rarely. Sometimes, and I'll only use it to be like, wow, Arts has double the kills of Prophet. So, if you think about how casters do what they do, I have essentially the same resources in terms of play-by-play commentary that you have. No, I mean, but Jay, I mean, wouldn't it be nice if I could just, click a button on a stream deck and see an individual's POV when I wanted to, right? So, be nice. But then we had so many players like, the casters didn't see that sick slink dart from Jay Hong. I was like, yeah, we couldn't see it. We couldn't see it because we're fucking watching program, not his POV. Like, you're a Jaehong fan. You're watching him 4 hours every time they play. Good on you. We don't have that. We don't see that. No, the casters called this incorrectly. Yeah, we can't see it. We can't, good on you.
Yeah, and you look at these hacks from Fitz, right? Both tanks dropped.
Do you think that's kind of a good thing, though, that you have barely more information than we do? That way your commentary can be more relatable for the viewer. I mean, it's a caster's responsibility to be relatable, right? Like, I expect that a caster, no matter how much information they have, will cast in a way that's relatable. Irrespective of how much information they have. The caster should know what the audience can see, and they should always use that as their main reference. There's no reason to do it any other way. Cat Daddy asks, do you think that Seoul and Shock would still be the final two teams if COVID hadn't messed up this season? I have absolutely no idea. That is a really interesting question, but I can't even figure out how to begin to answer that. Maybe teams that do better at LAN would have done better, but there would be home and away teams, right? I mean, it depends. If we didn't have COVID, the Dallas Fuel, who had more home games, I think, or more, like who had a bunch of home games because they were hosting a bunch of home stands, maybe they would have done better because they had a home crowd. I don't know. That's impossible for me to figure out. But I guess if you want to do a thought exercise in your free time, you can go back and try and see who had the most home stands scheduled and then make inferences from there. Maybe Seoul, maybe Dallas. Yeah, and it's an interesting thought, but I don't know how to figure it out. Outside of just pure speculation, right? Anyway, I'll get back to it. It's 99-75.
To the point, he gets a hack on the Smurf. They deal with him. Choi drops down. They get another hack. Now able to deal with Choi Hoban. So this is going to be really bad for San Francisco. EMP plus Bob they're walking into. There's the EMP. They only get Smurf. They're not able to finish it off. So actually kind of plays out pretty well for San Francisco. They just lose Violet.
That is not a kill.
And Gesture Falls just kind of running on in.
So I try and interject there, but Matt wasn't actually done. So obviously that was not a kill that you can afford to have happen if you're Sol. That's what I would have said, but it's fine. It just sounds like I said that was not a kill, which makes no sense, but Matt needs to finish his point here, so it's fine.
Not a kill that the Dynasty could afford.
I repeat it anyway.
They give up now. Bob hits the point. He can't contest. The walls are down, but I think that was a risk that Arns just wanted to take. He's going to find Profit anyway. He's happy with a clearer shot. Profit's going to be brought back into the fight here, but Arns had already found Fitz. Sombra is down. Profit, what can he do in the absence of his other DPS player? There's an Ana boost here from Creative and a Biotic grenade to potentially shut down his Transcendence from Violet, but Creative saves it as Marvel goes over the edge. Bob, though, what timing from Profit. It keeps the port stalled out for a little while and allows the Dynasty to play in from the outside, but Creative is down. Striker has a pulse bomb. He's going to be looking for the enemy Mercy here. Can he let this one go? Moth is removed. Trying to fly towards the point is Toby now to keep things going. But overtime is ticking down, and the Dynasty nowhere to be seen.
And I believe what happens with Marvel, you have to get a replay, but I believe in the previous fight he's so low and he's by the point, and he ends up kind of taking himself out with some of his passive damage from his hyperspheres.
So that is, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of fight that actually has some points and troughs, peaks and troughs, sorry, that has some up and down moments, and I can't stay hyped the whole time because there was a ton of back and forth, right? I tried to sort of graduate the pace as much as I could because it's only the first round. It's the first round. It's first round of Busan. But you see what I'm doing now, right, is that during that play-by-play, I'm really trying to add value, even though it's all happening fast. Just casting fast is not enough. I'm looking at you, play-by-play casters out there. Casting fast is not enough. I get a lot of feedback from people like, oh, the Rap God stuff is great, do more of it, but it's not good enough for me. So we can go back over it. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Jaws casts. Sound like some PUBG caster, bro. Road to Column 5 in the Outlaws jersey. Sag, so much Sag.
Player, there's an Ana boost here from Creative and a Biotic grenade to potentially shut.
So I actually, damn, I had to repeat myself there because I do that twice in this fight.
Down his Transcendence from Violet, but Creative saves it as Marvel goes over the edge.
Marvel goes over the edge. So yeah, so he's environmentally killed, probably by the Wrecking Ball, but it doesn't matter. I just mentioned that it's over the edge.
Bob, though, what timing from Profit.
Bob is crucial here. Gesture also commits to the point. Gesture gets a nano boost here just for the damage reduction and keeping the round going. Bob also helps a lot. I mean, so what we saw before was interesting, right? Because Arns throws Bob here. Can't really defend the point from here, but this is much better placement. You saw that Profit is able to get a Bob here and actually stall the point. So that keeps it alive. But Gesture is also given nano boost, maybe because they're not sure the Bob will be enough.
It keeps the point stalled out.
Yes, it keeps the point stalled out. So unfortunately, my clarity indiction falls over a little bit there.
For a little while and allows the Dynasty to play in from the outside, but Creative is down. Striker has a pulse bomb. He's going to be looking for the enemy Mercy here. Can he let this one go?
I probably should have said looking for Toby here. But I think I was looking at somewhere else on the, and I think maybe for a split second forgot that Toby was playing Mercy. But a ton of bullshit's just happening, right?
Stalled out for a little while.
All right, Gesture was nudging it back on. No way I could have seen it there.
It allows the Dynasty to play in from the outside, but Creative is down. Striker has a pulse bomb. He's going to be looking for the enemy Mercy.
So Smurf gets killed there by Fitz, but I don't have time to reference it. I need to deal with what's on my screen.
Here, can he let this one go? Moth is removed. Trying to fly towards the point is Toby now to keep things going. But overtime is ticking down, and the Dynasty nowhere to be seen.
That's a hard fight to cast.
Marvel, you have to get a replay, but I believe in the previous fight he's so low and he's by the point, and he ends up kind of taking himself out with some of his passive damage from his hyperspheres, and he has a.
Can we appreciate as well how many Seoul fans are not wearing? I don't know if it's Seoul fans necessarily. I think it's actually just fans in general. So, but it's great, right? How many fans of not Seoul or San Francisco are chilling in the skybox here. It's cool.
Flux at that moment. It's
oh, man.
Pretty unfortunate there for Seoul Dynasty. Didn't look good for them early on, but they're able to bring that point all the way to 99-99. We'll see how some of these compositions change up going into this next point.
Shock fans absolutely popping off on the T-Mobile skybox there.
I had to say T-Mobile skybox whenever it comes up. I need to reference it by its name. So, yeah, gotta do it.
San Francisco have always looked good on these control maps, and the positive
I can't just call it the skybox. It has to be the T-Mobile skybox connecting fans coast to coast.
side for them is that I think what maps 8 onward are all control maps after we've exhausted our escort and assault maps.
I know that's a sore point for Seoul fans. Quite a lot of control maps in the pool.
So, I mean, if the game goes that long,
it is what it is.
San Francisco are definitely favored, but the Seoul Dynasty are always looking to...
You know why we like the skybox, Radicule? Not necessarily because we miss crowds, but we do, but we're paid to like the skybox. So we like it.
Dangerous. And they're going to come out with a Sombra
again.
again.
It's a big problem, Mitch. We get 10 maps is a big
It's
problem.
impossible. Not possible.
Yeah. So, Lily fits on the Sombra again. So they make this adjustment straight away. They know that you'll have Smurf playing the Wrecking Ball here. You're going to have Fitz play the Sombra. Try and make it even harder for the Shock players to access the back line.
And there's the early pick. Fitz is starting to feel the Sombra, even if it didn't quite get the Dynasty across the line in that last round. If nothing else, just to make Smurf just a little more wary. That hook from Gesture hits any other day, and Violet's lucky to be given a stave execution.
So I point out there just how big that hook could have been, right? In a fight that's very much in full swing.
Shocker on the point, though. That's where they want to be, and Prophet's down. Let Violet live, and he will come back with a vengeance.
So I want to, I tie it in a little bit. Like I just mentioned Violet because he dodged a hook. Gesture's hook missed. And so the Zen lives and then just smacks Prophet with a headshot. So it's a nice little segue. I tied in those 2 bits of commentary because they were related. There was a common feature which was Violet. So I create a mini story about it, about coming back and getting shit done.
See another passive damage death there from Marvel as well, but they'll deal with Smurf. This will be the point to the San Francisco Shock. You see Toby just barely trying to hang on for a long.
So of course Matt is calling the fight over, which it is, right? You can't. If the enemy has a Mercy and a Ana alive, you can't say that the fight is anyone's game at that point. So we're moving along. We know the fight's over, and we focus on the future. Little toaster, I like how you have to say the Overwatch League Grand Finals presented by IBM. Yeah, actually, funny story. So last night I was having a restless night, and I sort of woke up feeling a little unwell, and like I didn't sleep enough. And Ashley, she leaned over to me and she said, it's the strangest thing last night, Mitch. I was, we were sleeping, and obviously we have an air purifier on, so that sort of creates a bit of white noise, a bit of sound in the room. But the strangest thing happened. I woke up at 4 a.m. and you sat bolt upright in bed, and you just screamed, "Presented by IBM!" at me over and over again. It's so strange.
Life, creative healing him up, not good enough. So
it's literally imprinted on my brain because I couldn't say the fucking grand finals without saying presented by IBM. That's fine, but that was something that we had to catch up with because it was only for the last few days of the grand finals that IBM was sort of they were the presenting sponsor, the big boys, the big bollocks swinging like a fucking pendulum. We had to, we had to deliver. So yeah, they had naming rights every time. Presented by IBM. That's what you have to do as a commentator. People think it's so easy, right? People think you can just turn up to a broadcast with a fucking hammer and sickle t-shirt on, talk about how much you hate, big corporations and, the man, but then you need to help deliver these sponsorship obligations, and you best fall in line and be a good little trooper when Daddy IBM tells you to say his name. You best.
Your team wipe there for the San Francisco Shock. Seoul Dynasty, they'll come out of the spot. They'll be very close to an EMP.
Again, not the start the Dynasty we're looking for here, but you
can see my voice is starting to get worn down.
Mentioned the EMP, something they can work with here that really turns the lights off for San Francisco. Moth with the Caduceus Blaster is probing just to see if he can locate Fitz. That would have been a very quick end of the Sombra.
So that's very wordy, right? But a couple important things. Talk about what Moth is trying to do. Talk about the name of the weapon because it's not often Mercy goes for the blaster. It's a payoff to the devs and the lore of the game to use the correct name for the weapon, right? What's May's gun? Endothermic blaster. Caduceus blaster, biotic rifle, scrap gun. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I couldn't recite all the names of all the weapons in the game if I was asked to, but it's really important to try and get most of them right because The devs write them into the game that way for a reason. So I mean, you can call something drone, right? But you better believe there have been plenty of fights where I've had to say gravitic flux into kinetic grasp into amplification matrix and then immortality field. It's a mouthful. It's hard, but you have to do it. You can't just say drone, window, grasp. You know, DM. He's DMing him. You know, hit him with the anti. Hit him with the anti. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
But no dice so far. Striker is also on the hunt.
So you notice that I'm bringing it down a little bit now because we have a lull. There's no need to shout. Also, whenever I go to a tracer, I will instinctively sort of become a little quieter, almost to a whisper, because tracers are trying to assassinate people. So there's some suspense in watching a tracer try to sneak up on someone. The more you can match that, the better. And this silence is intentional. There's nothing wrong with this. You can let it breathe sometimes.
Both teams, Prophet just kind of watching his side angles, waiting for Striker or Smurf to come on in. We're also waiting for Fitz to try and make a play.
He can't catch Creative. He's able to get away. Recall there. Creative tries to sleep dart and doesn't quite connect. Even with the healing of Toby, they can't keep the honor alive. And this is where the San Francisco Shock look to pounce. Moth gets the Valkyrie off. Even with the EMP in play, they've lost Violet, but they've still got plenty to work with. And yeah, it's blaster time. Trickobin probably prefers that Moth give him healing. And he gets it. He's the res as well to cement the fight for San Francisco.
So again, there was suspense. Matt took it away, and then there's a burst of energy, and that sort of was reflected in the commentary about that attempt because the cat's out the bag and bloop bloop bloop. You know, like snake. You know, like there's sounds of alarm that maybe going off in the head of Striker, and we try and convey that. So,
nah, there's Seoul Dynasty. Prophet actually hits a huge dynamite, gets a few players low, but Seoul does not have enough damage left. You know, they had both tanks, but they were quite low. They end up dying before there's an opportunity to put down some more damage, finish those players off as San Francisco, they're going to get up to, you know, the mid-80s on percentage. We could be very well looking at the final fight.
Yeah, there need to be a bomb to stall the point out here, and Valkyrie from Toby.
So again, what needs to happen for the Seoul Dynasty to stay alive in this series? We need to discuss it.
To keep the Dynasty topped up, can Creative shut down this Transcendence? Trigover wants to go for an early Gravitic Flux. This is what happened to him, actually, on Mecha Base earlier on. This time, though, the Shock can't find that early kill on the Sigma, but once more, Creative is being hunted by Striker, and the bait is there. Prophet gets the headshot, gets rid of the Tracer, and the Shock are only working with 5 players.
So again, in that moment, obviously, we're talking about Striker's attempt. Again, I mentioned that. Again, he's trying to hunt Creative. The kill happens, and I just try and summarize it. Maybe the only consequence of that kill that we know so far is that San Francisco with 5 players. So I just try and mention that. You know, kill happens. It might seem really obvious, but I reiterate the stakes and now maybe how my projection for the outcome of this team fight has changed as a result. 2 Ubers talking. I know it's almost more than I can handle. I just the temptation to rub my nipples while I hear myself talk is just, I don't know, Parker. It's killing me.
That's going to be hard for Moth to resurrect as well, I think.
So again, point out that res on that Tracer is impossible to get. Moth cannot get into the back line and bring that Tracer back because it's in enemy territory. So that is a kill that is not going to be replenished anytime soon.
They just wait for him to return and... Oh! Prophet! Are you kidding me? 4 kills, 3 headshots, and no San Francisco players to be found.
Okay, so I think I had to correct myself there. Let's see. I said 4 kills, 3 headshots, but I think it was actually 5 kills. Yeah, Striker is the first one. I don't think I count that when I sum it up.
And the bait is there. Prophet gets the headshot, gets rid of the Tracer, and the Shock are only working with 5 players. That's going to be hard for Moth to resurrect as well. I think they just wait for him to return.
3, 4,
oh, Prophet!
5.
Are you kidding me?
5 kills, 4 headshots. Now, I only mention, I guess, the first 4. I only mention what I can see on the kill feed. So when I say 4 kills, 3 headshots, that line is a direct result of a very brief glance at the kill feed. And I think, is there another kill here as well? Is this a 6K? No, not quite. There's a accretion there, but yeah.
4 kills, 3 headshots, and no San Francisco players to be found.
So I'm a little annoyed because I at the end of the first round here on Busan, I'm getting tired. I said that the Seoul Dynasty were nowhere to be found. So that's now a recycling of that little idiom or whatever that I prefer to avoid if I can manage.
And he actually ends up taking out Striker earlier on. from out of nowhere. Striker is putting so much pressure on Creative. Toby has to heal him. And that's not the position you want to be in, right? Your Mercy and the Ana, they want to be kind of healing some of these tanks as they push on forward. Them trying to just keep each other alive doesn't help the rest of the team. Striker obviously occupying 2 healers in that moment. And Prophet takes him out and then takes out the rest of the team.
Pulse Bomb doesn't connect for Striker. It was definitely wishful thinking to try and catch Prophet there rather than nimble the Ashes with the coach gun. Prophet is back to business.
So maybe mention
here. Gesture will body block most of
mentioning there briefly why it can be hard to catch Ash, right? Because of the coach gun.
that damage. Makes a better door than a window, that's for sure. Smurf is taken down by the hack. That's the
Don't laugh at your own jokes, Mitch. That's so sad.
Sombra at play, Matt.
Is there any hero that Prophet cannot play at the highest level?
So, rhetorical question, but you see there, I usually actually use Matt's name to indicate that I'm throwing to him, just to be sure that he knows.
You don't really kind of consider him like somebody who plays a ton of the long-range hit scan, but I know the way he's played Ash here today, he can definitely hang with the best.
Very unique traits, something that Fletter also shares with him.
So we take a moment to just to gas the boy up, because Prophet is obviously incredibly flexible, and that doesn't get talked about in this series at least enough.
And San Francisco need to make substitutions to even really match. That EMP though didn't quite find the mark for Fitz. Still, Prophet is a safe off-angler. Marvel's on the point. Resurrect for Striker here, and it looks like the Shock want to try and double down on this fight, but Prophet chilling on top of the drum. He's safe.
And Ons has not been able to get anything going here on this point. They just denied so many angles, and then also with the Sombra in the mix on the Wrecking Ball. But so much pressure on him is, when I said it was kind of final fight for the Seoul Dynasty, we're approaching that territory here for the Shock.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sick, right? So the story's definitely been Prophet in the last minute or so, right? Because he gets like 5 kills in like a must-win fight, like a game ender. And then he just turns up. You can see San Francisco now. Some of the mistakes are starting to creep in, right? It was 2-2, and they invested in that last fight with their Valkyrie, oddly enough, and it didn't work out. So they are... I don't think that they're composed at all. I think that they're stressed as fuck.
One more fight is all the Shock have needed, but that one fight win has been eluding them thus far.
So I just want to point out just how close they are, and yet they've allowed the Dynasty to get back into this map.
Last chance saloon for both these teams, and the Dynasty want to keep afloat in this map. Prophet, a long way from Bob here. It's really going to just be the Valkyrie that the Dynasty rely on, and Marvel's hit with the Discord Orb. That's the Valkyrie, but it's not enough to...
Big pulse bomb here. Toby has to res.
Save Marvel. Maybe a res will get him back in the fight.
So I mentioned that. Maybe a res can return him. I don't know where the kill happened, though. So I'm not saying that there would definitely be one or definitely not be one. What's that, Mr. Wojo?
No one's really paying attention to...
There's the trade, though.
Prophet right now, and he gets rid of Troy Open. A massive pick, but the Shock have the point. And
so I quickly point out that the Shock have captured the point, which is, I mean, I don't know how many people are looking at this right now.
Eventually, Prophet will have to step up.
That is a ballsy res, but both teams get reses, but Fitz dies here.
And deliver. Troy Open
working towards this Bob.
Yeah. So I take a breath there, and I'm about to say Troy Open gets brought back into the fight, but Matt, very critically, in my opinion, is referencing this, just how close Bob is going to be for Prophet, and he's working with what we're seeing on screen. So I like that. I took a breath. I said Shurikoben. Matt chimes in. It's timely. It's relevant. And now you're looking at Prophet. He has to do it again.
He's returned. One more hit. Prophet just needs a little bit more damage to get the Bob to stall this.
And there it is. It falls apart. Arns finds 2. That headshot is big. It has to be a res here. And I mean, yeah, 3 players alive.
But Arns puts him to bed. And Toby in midair. It's skeet shooting for Arns. A day at the range.
A day at the range, obviously, throw back to the lane short for Roberts thing. But I mean, there you go. So we kind of build up expectation. We build up a story. And when it doesn't work out, we've got to. I guess we've got to be in that moment, right? But Matt does a good job at just bringing us back to what's important. So I'm everywhere. I'm talking about all this stuff that's going on, right? Matt's like, look at the Bob. And straight away, I'm looking at the Bob. I'm looking at Prophet.
Prophet just needs a little bit more damage to get the Bob to stall this out.
And that kill is just huge. And you have no choice if you're Toby. You have to try and resurrect this.
But puts...
And then he sort of stops. I think he... Is that just a Valk? Okay, no, but he jumps to the high ground here and then he gets caught. Yeah, I guess he's trying to get to his wrecking ball. That is insane. So big kill. Now we're popping off.
And Toby in midair. It's skeet shooting for Arns. A day at the range in San Francisco. Get their 3rd map. That'll bring up match point.
And I'm dogging, right? I'm like, they've done a nice job with Arns. Like they haven't really given him a ton of line of sight. there at the end when things start to get crazy. You know, they kind of have to push into the lines of sight of Ants. 2 big kills.
So that is such a great example of Matt always setting me up for success. So, you know, there's a lot of play-by-play to be had there. There's a ton of stuff happening, but Matt quickly snaps my focus. It sounds like it's just the audience, but he's actually snapping my focus onto the win condition for Seoul if they're going to come back into the fight. I was talking about Shokyobin being back, but in reality, I should have spent more time on the Dynasty, who was short-handed. They had to get the point, and they had a key ultimate coming up. So in that moment, Matt brings my attention back to what's important. We're working with what the observers are giving us, and then we pay off the storyline, right? Now, it doesn't go the way that Prophet wanted it to, but the storyline was that he would be again called on to save the game, and it works. Like, we got lucky. We're the backing track. We're the accompaniment to this. It's an incredible moment of Overwatch where Arns gets Toby in midair. He forces that resurrect. And then we just exist in that moment. Matt just says, and now Matt's breaking it down by saying how it felt for Seoul. What they had to push into, just how stacked against them the odds were. This is such, that round was so sick, the way that Seoul managed to come back in. Honestly, one of my favorite rounds of Overwatch I think I've ever seen.